I thought what we would do is, first of all, how many people in the audience, this book is 3 months old, and it's an incredible success. As someone who's worked in publishing for 30 years, many, many novels sell 10,000 copies or less. We are now almost to 200,000 copies in hardcover, which is extraordinary. We just went back to press for another, for another 35,000 copies 3 months after on sale. This is insane. We are so excited. So I imagine many of you have read the book. Could you raise your hand if you've read the book? Okay. But there are a lot of people who haven't. So for those of you who have, let's please try not to ask spoiler questions or to say anything that's a spoiler. I know it's going to be hard. You can pull them aside afterwards and have those conversations. Wally, I would love you to tell everyone in the room what the book is about.
A young couple in their 30s. They don't have identical twins. They have fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. And a tragedy happens with one of the kids in the very early part of the novel. Tragedy is caused by the father, Corby Ledbetter, and he is, unbeknownst to his wife, he's lost his job. He's a commercial artist, and so he became the stay-at-home parent. And he loves his kids, but he's not that comfortable being, Mr. Mom. And so he begins to get very anxious about their finances, and goes to a doctor and gets anti-anxiety medication without really knowing that is addictive. And then on top of that, he begins to day drink, and that leads to the tragedy. And I guess what I would say is that I ask I'm sort of in a partnership with the readers who want to pick it up and give it a chance, and I ask them, is this guy forgivable? Can he be redeemed? Can he forgive himself? And of course, can his wife forgive him? Because she's distraught as well and betrayed by his secrets. So anyway, part of the novel takes place in prison. He goes to prison for 3 years for.
Spoilers, Wally.
What's that?
No spoilers, Wally.
Okay, all right. Well, he doesn't go to prison. I'm just making that up. All right, go ahead.
I do love the question of forgiveness, and it is central to this book, and it's really, really powerful. I would love you to read a little bit. Is this a good time?
Sure.
Okay.
I was invited to read a little bit. I thought I would read something that's not quite so heavy. There's there's a lot of tough stuff that you got to kind of confront in this novel. I started with the tragedy in terms of, when I was trying to come up with a storyline here. I had just read a newspaper article about the prevalence of this type of tragedy. It's called a backover incident. So I had to go back and try to figure out who these people were, before the tragedy. And so I created a backstory for them, and I'm going to read about the summer that they started going out together. She is Emily, who becomes his wife. She's out in California. She's studying to become a teacher, and he is at the Rhode Island School of Design studying art. And that summer, they both work. They get summer jobs at the Mystic Village in Mystic, Connecticut. We got together almost every night for the rest of that dwindling summer. Went to the beach half a dozen times, made love whenever the opportunity led us, given that we were both staying with our moms. Emily's mother was iffy about me from the beginning, and she wasn't exactly reassured when she found a couple of the nude sketches I had done of Emily. He could post these on the internet, she warned her daughter. How many schools do you think would hire you to teach if these went public? Emily's theory was that Betsy would come around once she got to know me better, so I went over there for dinner one rainy Sunday in the middle of August. Emily made a lasagna, and Betsy contributed a green salad with nothing in it besides arugula, oil, and lemon juice. Hope she hasn't tired herself out making this, I thought. To impress her, I had splurged on a $30 bottle of wine and purposely left the price tag on, but I could have saved my money because Betsy barely touched her lips on the glass. After I had finished a second helping of lasagna, Emily said she had made a blueberry pie for dessert. When she stood up and started clearing the plates, I got up to help her, but Betsy insisted I sit back down because I was their guest. With Emily in the kitchen, that left the two of us. After an awkward several seconds, I said, "So, your daughter says you write poetry, huh?" "Oh, here and there," she said. "I'm much more of a reader than a writer." "Oh yeah? What's your favorite book?" "Oh goodness, I have so many. I have been rereading Jane Eyre. That's one of my favorites. Masterpiece Theater has been running a marvelous series based on the book. I don't suppose you've seen it." No, but my mother's been watching it," I told her, which was a lie. For Mom, must-see TV on Sunday nights was Desperate Housewives. "So tell me," she said, "is art something you are hoping to make your living doing?" "Oh, maybe," I said. "I'm not really into planning my future at this point. I guess I'm more of a live for today kind of person." "Uh-huh. And you're the grasshopper, not the ant." When I shrugged, she said, "Aesop's fables. You're very young, aren't you?" As in immature and stupid, I figured. I poured myself more wine. A $30 bottle of Cabernet. Somebody had better drink it. I felt like letting her know that my high school girlfriend's parents had been crazy about me, and her dad had even taken me fishing. Where the hell was Emily? Reaching for my glass, I knocked it over, spilling wine on their white tablecloth. Ignoring my apology, Betsy jumped up, rushed to the kitchen, and came back armed with paper towels, a dishcloth, and a bottle of club soda. Blotting, pouring, and scrubbing, she let me know that the tablecloth was a gift from her favorite aunt, and it would be ruined if the stain was allowed to set. "Yeah, Ken, I'm just really sorry," I said. Instead of acknowledging my apology, she continued to scrub aggressively. When Emily returned with the pie, she apologized that it was so juicy. She had forgotten the cornstarch, she said. Aware that blueberry stained, I ate my piece super carefully. As soon as I had my last bite, I stood and said, "Well, I have to go." "Already?" Emily said. I made up a bullshit excuse about having to feed a neighbor's dog. At the front door, I whispered to Emily that I was pretty sure I had flunked the audition. "Well, good thing you're not dating her then," she said. "And don't worry about that stupid tablecloth, big deal." When I kissed her, she kissed me back. It was pouring by then, and the ground was saturated. Backing up the car, I accidentally veered off the driveway and onto the lawn, made a little bit of a rut, which by morning might not even be noticeable. And if it was, Betsy would have to just fucking get over it. "You're very young, aren't you?" What a bitch. All right, I'll stop now.
One of the things that I love so much about your writing is your ability to really crack open your characters. And like with Corby, you really crack him open. And I just want to tell a story about how you and I came to work together, because this is germane to the cracking of the characters. When I first started in publishing, She's Come Undone was Wally's first novel, and it became a sensation. It was Oprah's second pick,
Third, I think.
third pick. If you've read the book, there's a character in that book named Dolores Price who is absolutely unforgettable. I mean, I can still picture her in my mind. I felt like I was Dolores Price. And then when I realized that a man had written the book, it completely blew my mind. During COVID, an agent named Bill Clegg, who was new to Wally, called me up, and we have several clients together, and he said, "I just took on Wally Lamb, and I think you guys might get along." And I oh my God, Wally Lamb? I mean, She's Come Undone is one of my favorite books. And we met here in town. We had to meet in person, and COVID had just opened. Restaurants had just opened up, and you wanted an in-person meeting, and not a phone call, and it was so charming. And we sat down at Spiga, and you guys all know Spiga, and we were the only people in the restaurant, and he said, "Oh, well, no, Canaan's pretty fancy." And I said, "Yeah, my grandfather, the barber, over there at the Colonial Barber Shop." And he said, "Paisan, just like me." So what you don't know, Wally is also.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the rest was just kismet.
Yeah, I think that lunch I was planning, we'll talk for about an hour and then I'll get back on the highway. And I think it was like maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And by then the traffic was a nightmare, but it had all been worth it.
But here's my question. Because Corby is he's a complicated character.
Mm-hmm.
And he is, even in that scene, he's annoying. Like, he is both annoying and endearing and funny and irritating. And what's the inspiration?
Endearing and annoying. Just ask my wife, who can't be here tonight. But I don't know. I don't think I was particularly empathetic when I was a kid. When I was I think I was like maybe third year in high school, and I was like a student banker or something. We had to collect dues, and so I would go around to different homerooms and collect people's dues. And now there was a young woman in our class who was an easy target. It was typical for us guys, to go, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask Teresa to the prom. I hope she'll go with me. And she was very quiet. She was sort of scared to death to be in high school. She looked odd. She kind of acted peculiarly. And so I remember one day so vividly going up. I said, I went to her homeroom and I said, anybody have dues? And she raised her hand like this. And I went to her desk, and I think she had like $1 bill. And she's handing me the $1 bill with her hand was just sort of shaking to be, close to somebody. And I thought to myself, what bastards we've been to this poor kid. She's petrified. High school must be a nightmare for her. And I think that's when the door opened up to, being not just myself, but being in somebody else's position and being ridiculed and made fun of and had been an easy target. I remember, I'm so old that we've had our 50th high school reunion, and she was there, and she was still sitting by herself, and I went over there and I talked to her, and she wasn't any more comfortable being around me. But I wanted to make that effort. And when I started teaching high school, and then I taught at UConn for a while too, I was always the most empathetic to the kids who were the walking wounded, the kids who didn't necessarily have two, good parents, the kids who, were facing addiction, or who were, occasionally I'd get a kid who was homeless in one of my classes. And those were the kids that I always reached out to. And so little by little, I taught for 25 years. And so, that my sense of empathy sort of, got bigger and wider. And I realized that when I wanted to write in first person. I wanted to become these people, and I wanted to slip out of my own skin and my own fairly happy life, and inhabit somebody else's life. And what happens every time now, seven novels and all first person, I can grow, I can expand beyond the limitations of my own life. And so I learned stuff, and that's where Corby came from. I've always been afraid that something terrible would happen to one of my kids. And when something happened to his kids, I decided I was going to become him and sort of live his life.
Whoa, that's beautiful. Was there any point in the novel when you were writing it, again, just remember no spoilers, that you felt like you couldn't go on character? I mean, there were times when I felt as a reader and your editor that I couldn't bear the pain. But there's always humanity and light to your books too. I don't really know how you manage it. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering, as you're writing that, are you feeling do you have the empathy where you're feeling this of your characters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel the blows, and luckily I can, at the end of my workday, I can turn the laptop off and become myself again. One of these days, maybe that's not going to happen. I don't know, but yeah, it's sometimes painful. It's sometimes there's a little bit of comic relief that I try to put in there as well, more as a survival technique for myself. But yeah, it's my wife, Chris, she knows when something terrible has happened in the novel, and I never know what's going to happen until it happens. I don't have an outline. I don't have a game plan. I just show up in my office every day to see what's going to happen next, and she can always tell when there's a tough thing that's just happened in the story. She just can read my body language and so forth. So
You walk away, you close the laptop, but it still affects you.
I'll get away from it for a couple hours and then drop, my head on the pillow at night, and it'll come back to me, and I'm trying to figure out where it's going to go next.
Do you have a favorite character in this book and then in all your books?
I think in this book, I really have a fondness for Manny. He's one of when Corby goes to prison, he has a horrible cellmate at first, and then Manny comes onto the scene, and Manny has been he's been kind of trying to take him under his wing, and Corby's not that comfortable with that because Manny's gay and he thinks he may be coming on to him or something, but they become really fast friends, and Manny is really good to him, but he's also kind of comical too. Yeah,
He's great.
Yeah.
He's a great comic relief. He goes to prison now.
Well, that happens in the first third of the book, so surprise.
I know, surprise. No spoilers. But what I love about it is there are so many highs and lows in this book. I mean, if you've read it, you know that you kind of gasp, and it's a complete roller coaster. So that's why I was wondering if you have those moments, because you walk in, you don't know what's going to happen that day. And do you ever get so surprised that you have to, what happens when you get surprised?
I like surprises because that's when I feel the real writing, kicks in. And usually when I'm surprised, I start writing faster than usual. I'm not trying to strategize something that's going to happen. It just sort of comes out of me. And so, yeah, I like surprises. And I was very surprised when Corby meets the prison librarian. And I also would have to say that a lot of this book was influenced by my volunteer teaching down at the women's prison, York, which calls itself York Correctional Institution. But if you're going to correct yourself at that place, you're going to have to do the heavy lifting. It's not so much that they're correcting you; they are imprisoning you, and taking away your voice. And so I worked with the women down there for about 20 years, and they taught me more than I taught them. And some of the important things that they taught me was, nobody intends to go to prison. You're not like, hey, maybe I'll really screw up and go to prison. I'll commit a couple of felonies. No, it just sort of, it happens, and for a number of different reasons. Many of the women are there because of the things that they've done, and some of them have had a life of crime, and others just one thing, one bad day, so they become known for the worst that they have ever become for one thing. They killed an abusive husband, for instance, and so and then they get these sentences that are just draconian. Sometimes I worked with one young woman, Robin, and she came into prison when she was 14, and she had a 50-year sentence. So she comes in at 14, she gets out when she's 60. She tried to commit suicide 2 or 3 times because, how can I think about my future? Happily, she has gotten out because they've done quite a bit of research now with, the development of the human brain and how reasoning, making good decisions, that's one of the last things that sort of, makes your brain mature. And so, a couple of very benevolent lawyers worked on her case, and she's now out and doing very well. She's, I think, she's about 40 now, and I'm happy to say that she has taken full advantage of rehabilitating her life.
Let's turn to a happier topic. Tell us about Oprah. Tell us about the first Oprah, because that's a really good story.
Yeah. So it's 1992. It's 4th of July weekend. My first novel has just come out. So I'm very excited. Remember when there was Walden Books? There was a Walden Books in the mall near our house. And so I said to my kids, they were, I think, 10 and 7 at the time, our oldest two. And I said, hey guys, let's go to the mall. And I said, and you go into Walden Books and see if you can find my book. And whoever is the first one to find it gets $1. And so I waited out in the mall walk, and they went in, and 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and finally they both come slump-shouldered out, and they said, Dad, we can't find it. Can we still have the money? So, like I said, my older son, Jared, who is now a TikTok star, an Instagram star, he's Principal Lamb on TV. I mean, on the internet, and he has like hundreds of thousands of followers.
You have to check this out. He's Principal Lamb with a cart.
With a cart, yeah.
He doesn't have an office. He goes around the school on his cart.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
But anyway, so he's 10 years old, and this is a couple of weeks after the book had come out, still 1992, and he answers the phone, and he's like, yeah, no, yeah, Dad! So I go to the phone, and the woman on the other end says, hi, is this Wally? Yeah, what are you doing, Wally? I'm doing laundry, actually. Taking clothes out of the washer and putting them in the dryer. And she says, and I'm thinking to myself, whoever the hell this is, she doesn't do her own laundry, So, but anyway, I said, who is this? And she says, this is Oprah Winfrey. And I'm like, yeah, But she kept talking, and it was just too good an invitation for her not to be Oprah Winfrey. So my wife was, I think she was setting the table for dinner or something, and I'm like, it's Oprah. And she's like, she was not very good at my pantomime, so she's like saying, the Pope, dope, So anyway, she was calling, she said, because she had finished She's Come Undone, and when she reads a book that she likes or loves, she tries to track down the author just to say, thank you for writing it. And so she said, books saved my life when I was a kid. She said, I had a very challenging childhood, and so I would retreat into the stories that I read. And she says, so I just wanted to say thanks. And I'm like, hey, no problem, But anyway, it had nothing to do with the show. There was no Oprah Book Club, and it was just this wonderful conversation between a reader and a writer. She's called several times since, but for me, that was the most special call. And then when she did start the Oprah show, or the Oprah Book Club, and it became an instant phenomenon, that was in 1997. And she calls again, and she said, hey, Wally, you still doing the laundry? And I probably lied and said, yes, I still am, but my wife hates it when I tell this story, because she's like, hey, he's probably done the laundry like 7 times in 45 years of marriage. Well, anyway, so she, at this point, there was an Oprah Book Club, and she picked it. I think it was the third novel in her thing. So 5 years after it was published, and it did modestly okay for a book by Wally Who, suddenly I'm like at the top of the bestseller list. And then I had been working on a second novel, I Know This Much Is True, and I finished that one the following year. And so that was 1998. And this time, I knew all about, you have to keep it a secret until she announces it and so forth. So I Know This Much Is True. It just come out. And I'm in New York doing, publicity. And I'm talking to the Book of the Month Club writer. And we're in my hotel room in New York City. And the phone rings. And I said, excuse me. And it's Oprah. And she says, guess what, Wally? We're going to pick I Know This Much Is True. It's going to be our summer book. And I'm like, oh, I know I can't divulge any of this. So I'm like, oh, well, thank you, ma'am, but I'm in the middle of an interview. Can you call me back? And she said, yeah, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. So, the interview ends. I walk the writer out to the elevators, and I go, tear ass and back to my room, and realized that I had forgotten my room key, and I was locked out. So she's going to call back in 10 minutes. I went down, 7 or 8 flights of stairs, come running back, have my new key, open up, and I sat by that damn telephone waiting for about, an hour and a half, something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, if she doesn't call back, I'm just not mentioning it to my editor, And so, but she did, and that was the second time. And then this spring, she called back for the third time, and actually there was one other writer who has been picked 3 times, and that is Toni Morrison. Yeah, Toni and I,
Living writer.
Yeah.
Living writer.
Oh, living writer, yes.
She was chosen posthumously.
Yeah.
One of those, at least one of those
Right.
was, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Because I think Beloved was posthumous. Well, I knew before you knew, and that was really, really hard. And I had to say, Wally, where are you going to be on X day, and can you be available by phone? Which I felt like was the biggest tell ever.
My wife and I were sitting with our accountant. We were getting our taxes done. And Marysue calls, and she's like, and she's really getting kind of assertive about, are you going to be here for such and such a time? And I'm like, geez, Marysue, chill out, whatever this is. But I know I didn't. I probably should have realized something, but I didn't even fantasize that she would have picked another novel. Yeah.
I did. Well, okay, so I love to read what people have written about this novel, because the reader reviews are amazing, and they're saying, I'm reviewing through my tears. Oh, come on. Everything a great novel should be: magnificent, gut-wrenching, the best piece of literature, 5 stars all around. Do you read your reviews?
No, I used to. When I was with the first, I think 2 novels, I would read them, and those Amazon reviews, and they give a certain number of stars, and I would get all these really wonderful, nice comments with all kinds of 4-star, 5-star, but the only ones that I would ever focus on were the mean people who had given it like 1 star because they couldn't give it 0 stars and all that kind of stuff. And so no, I had to teach myself, you don't need to do this. You don't need to worry about you. All you have to do is, write it for yourself and send it out into the world. And whatever happens, whoever is meant to read it or like it, you got to trust, that that's going to happen. And so at that point, I was writing my 3rd novel, and I shut down because I was too focused on where the reader's going to like this one. And I finally one day literally got up out of to the door of my office. I opened it up, and I said, could you all get the hell out of here, because I gotta write this for myself, and then we'll see what happens with it.
Did it work?
Yeah. But that 3rd novel was tough to write because I kept having, that, what is it, something guilt,
Survivor's guilt?
not survivor's guilt.
Imposter syndrome?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah. What is it called?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. That's what I'm stretching for. Yeah, and I thought, okay, I just got really lucky twice, and now they're going to find out, that I suck.
Usually the sophomore novel is the really hard one, especially if the first one has been
Well,
successful.
because I had, before I got the Oprah thing for the first one, I had been writing the other one for about 5 years, so that I was saved on
That was
number
smart.
2. Yeah.
That was lucky. So what was the hardest novel for you to write? Was it number 3?
Yeah, number 3 was the hardest, and for a number of reasons. My parents were elderly at that point, and I was the go-to guy. My mother had had several strokes, and she was suffering dementia. My father had Parkinson's disease, so so I was fulfilling their needs. We had just adopted a third kid. He was biologically, he is our nephew, but he became our son, and parents were drug addicts and alcoholics, and we were naive, thinking that, okay, he's only 4, we can protect him and love him, and he's going to be okay. Well, I say naive because I didn't realize, nor did my wife, that those first 4 years are crucial, and he had a lot of trauma. So that was happening, and he was tantruming on a daily basis, and sort of blowing a hole in our domestic life, and then I'm facing this fear of writing a third novel, and so what my life was so painful at that point that I would take a vacation from it every night, and go down in the basement and drink scotch, and that became a problem for me, and became a problem for my wife as well. And I drank alcoholically for maybe about 10 years, in my 50s this was, and then I joined a 12-step program, and I've been, that program helped me climb out of the black hole that I had put myself in because I was afraid to fail. So and let's see, today's September. Yeah, it's September. So later this month, I will be celebrating my 15th year of sobriety.
Well, I mean, now we know also why Corby has so much verisimilitude, right?
Yeah.
Because there's an authenticity to him that
Yep.
resonates for me, and I think for anyone who's had an addict they love in their lives.
Mhm.
So did you ever cry writing this novel?
Not that I remember. I'm not a crier, and I'm not much of a laugher either. Like when my wife and I are watching, some funny thing on Netflix or something, she laughs out loud, and I sit there. I'm thinking it's funny. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not demonstrative that way.
Well, you're a hugger
I am a hugger. Yeah.
and a smiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You did not know the ending of this book before you wrote it, right?
That's correct.
And when did that happen? When did the ending come to you?
It came to me one morning before I was toward the end of it, and I was in the shower, and I had the last paragraph and the last sentence, which, without going into it, is the surviving twin says, "Hi, boy," and that's when I knew how it was going to end.
And who reads first for you? Does Chris or your writing group?
With my earlier novels, Chris was always the first reader, And I like to read it out loud because I can hear, when I hear it in my voice, I get different information than when I'm just sort of sitting reading it in silence. But lately it's shifted, and for the last three books, it's either my assistant Allison, who is down when I'm writing it, and she's a writer herself, or my writers group. Yeah. So, can I use some profanity to tell you something? Yeah.
Children in the room.
Yeah. Well, when I was reading something, really sad near the end, and it came as a surprise to the people in my writers group. And there's one guy, John, and he's just the nicest guy, very gentle guy, and I like him a lot. And when I revealed, what was going to happen toward the end, he said to me quite atypically, "Wally, well, he said, "Wally, you bitch motherfucker," and I was like, well, I guess he was involved with the story.
Has he read a Wally Lamb novel before? Because, I mean...
Yeah, he suffered through it with me.
You have some of the most dramatic, propulsive writing. It's also beautiful and so wise about the human condition and, our fragility and our interconnectedness, our vulnerability. And, you said that moment in high school, was a moment for you, and a teacher too. I wonder, who do you read? Is there anyone you read or have read inspired you also to have this kind of grand canvas of empathy and welcome?
I would say the first person who comes to mind is Ann Tyler. Loved her work. I like how audacious Flannery O'Connor can be in what she writes. Raymond Carver is a god of mine, and John Updike, particularly his early short work. These are people that I read when I was trying to learn how to be a writer. But in terms of I have to share this because this just came back to me just a couple of days ago. Something that happened to me. I think I was about 11 years old. It was summertime. I grew up in a working class neighborhood, and across the street from our house was a tenement house, and there were 3 stories, and they had porches in the front. So I'm sitting out there on the stoop, looking across the street at this house, and there's a young mother. She had a baby, like maybe 9 months old, something like that. And you know how people throw a baby up and then catch them and to get the baby giggling and stuff? Well, she was doing that, but she had her hands extended out beyond the porch, and she was doing it. And I remember my stomach flip-flopping, and I went in the house because I couldn't look, and but I never told anybody this. And that, Marysue, that moment comes back to me all the time. And then so I was thinking about that the other day, and then I'm thinking about some of the stuff that I write, and there's always vulnerable children in some way or another in what I write, and I think it's related to that really fearful observation that I made, because all I could picture was, it didn't happen, but all I could picture was that she loses her balance or something, the baby hits the sidewalk 3 stories down.
11-year-old to hold that inside.
Yeah.
Well, what a great way to turn it into creative inspiration, because
I didn't know that was going to happen, but I think a lot of what I write. Well, I write out of fear a lot, and try to confront my fears of different things by writing these stories, and that's definitely part of that mix. And so, Marysue, this is a great chance for me to tell you how grateful I am to be working with you, and to be able to say it in your hometown with your parents in the audience.
Thanks, Wally. We are the invisible hands as editors. I just want to say thank you to the New Canaan Library, to everybody on staff, to Elm Street Books, to everyone in this room. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Wally. You are a dream. It is such an honor to work with you.